We'll find out. And good morning, everybody. I hope everybody's having a wonderful Labor Day weekend. Lori, how is yours going?
So far, so good. It's been a good weekend, and
I know it's been a little toasty out there.
Yeah, it has been. But kind of waiting for the sun to shine today, though.
Yeah, it's supposed to be nice, and looking forward to a little cooler weather. And but I don't think whoever's joining us this morning is here to listen to the weather report. They're here to help celebrate Lori's birthday, which is really tomorrow. So everybody still has time to get their shopping done. But let's see. So you got big plans?
Yeah, my daughter's coming down and we're going to hang out today. So my cat's trying to say hello to everybody. So Max says good morning.
Listen to him.
Story of my life. I came home on Sunday and it was like I had a cat alarm. I just could hear him. Anyways, you didn't tune in to hear me nag about my cat either. But
well, I don't know. It's Labor Day.
Yeah.
We can do whatever we want. Well, we can really do whatever we want anytime.
Yeah, we just kind of thought we'd have a little fun today. Most people are taking the day off or taking some time off, and we like to be here with our people, and we have some info to share. So before we forget, because Lord knows 1 week passes, I don't remember what happened the week before. I don't know.
Well, you're doing better than me. 1 day passes and I don't remember what happened, but you'll always be younger than me. Just remember that.
Yeah, I suppose I will be.
That's right. I'll probably have to rely on you to be my memory pretty soon. But
okay. Thank goodness for smartphones, because they can remember a lot for us.
Yes, very true. Very true. Well, and we have news from last week. What was last week?
Last week was Woman Up.
And who was the first speaker out of the gate?
That was me.
Yay! And who knocked it out of the park?
Is this a quiz?
But over here, I'm trying to figure out where you are on my screen.
It was right on this view.
Well, it's different on, let's see. Okay, I'm having to watch the replay over here on Facebook, but I don't know. It was Lori, and Lori did fabulous, so fabulous that she had a really nice write-up in Inman about her session. And I think I have that posted in the Nerdy group. So if you didn't read it, go read it. But instead of reading it right now, we're going to ask Lori to do a little Reader's Digest condensed version of what did she talk about? So what did you talk about?
So I spoke about opening your own brokerage, and really the place to start in that conversation is, if you don't have your broker's license, go get it. A lot of you that have your broker's license may not ever be interested in opening your own brokerage, and that's fine. But if you have a salesperson license, I really encourage you to get a broker license, because you never know. And the headline on the Inman News is "Never Say Never." When I decided to get my broker's license, it was just a natural progression in my career. And I thought, it's going to add credibility to my work and to me as a real estate professional. And I didn't have any desire to open my own brokerage. And what I share in the workshop is, you never know what your future self is going to decide to do. And so, fast forward, and yes, I opened my own brokerage. But prior to that, most of you know that I ran a very large independent company as the broker of record, with over 1,800 agents. And so I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't have my broker's license. And some of you may not want to ever do that. And it's a lot. So I don't necessarily encourage people to do that. But, you just have options. And especially in the climate of real estate now, companies are gobbling up other companies. And you may find yourself working somewhere that you never wanted to work, or working for someone you never wanted to work for. And so having your broker's license really gives you options. So that's the place to start. If you don't have it, I really encourage you to pursue it. If nothing else, it adds stock, it adds credibility, and increases your professional stock, is what I mean to say. So then with that, I just talk about all the things you need to think about in order to go out on your own. You know, it's easy to have the broker's license and then just tomorrow wake up and say, okay, I'm going to be on my own. But there's a lot that's involved with that. So I cover 10 or 12 questions to ask yourself before you decide to go out on your own. So, and then I kind of walk you through some of the logistics of what needs to happen and how to be prepared. And so if you didn't attend, the replays will be available for purchase through the Woman Up group through CAR in the very near future.
Yeah, I think they said they're up now. So,
Well,
if, you know,
the
you
replays
just,
are up if you attended, if you get to log in, but then if you didn't attend, if you didn't buy your ticket, then they're going to be offering the individual replays for sale and possibly a bulk package. I don't recall what it said.
pretty good, pretty good. I'll tell you, that was a lot of good information. And it's something that, you know, I think it's interesting because so many people are like, oh, well, I'm just going to get my broker's license and I'm just going to open my own brokerage. And you're just like, you know, I had zero clue as to what all happens on the back office end of things. The insurance is necessary, the systems you have to have. You know, it's. I keep looking back to when we first started Laurel Real Estate Resources. And, you know, I'll share a little story with the group here. You know, Lori had gotten this awesome back office system, but we didn't know what it was for, the original group of us. And it was like, well, what do we need this for? This seems like a lot of work. I don't know why we need all of this. This is just silly. I don't want to use that. Well, oh, we got to put records over here. Oh, no, we don't want to do that. Now,
that was literally the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, really, that was it. And Lori's over there. I'm trying to keep this organized and running like a company. And we're like, well, we don't need, you know, we don't know why we need to do this, you know. And fast forward 2.5 years later, and it's like, oh, Jesus, now I know why you needed this system. We got to get it. We got to get this working. We need a place to park, you know, agent records and keep track of the transactions and the dollars and this and that. And the other thing, it's like, okay, I've seen the light, but it took me a while until I actually saw the operational aspect of things, because as a sales agent for 28 years, I never needed to know about that stuff. And, you know, I will say, to a certain extent, ignorance is bliss. However, when you want to, you know, step your game up and say, you know what, yeah, we can do this. There is so much you do not know that needs to be known. And that's where Lori shines. And that's why Lori has her brokerage consulting company that she will set people up. So if you're out there thinking about this, you know, she's your girl. But it's mind-boggling what you do not know. And people think this is easy. This is not easy. This is a lot of record keeping, a lot of tracking, a lot of knowing what you need to do and how to do it, what to do when the DRE comes knocking on your door. Well, if you have a door to knock on, you know, they'll find you.
Yeah, that's on your home door.
Yeah, you know, and you do have a phone and stuff like that, so they can probably track where you're at. But, you know, it's just stuff that, as somebody who's always worked for, you know, under somebody else's broker's license, I had no idea. And now it's like, oh crap, this is a lot of stuff, and we need to get, you know, we need to step up our game. And so if you're out there, yeah, you need to step up your game, you know, get your broker's license. And, you know, if you're thinking about working for yourself, definitely seek help before doing that. And maybe seeking help on a, you know, on a mental health therapist standpoint too, but you know, seek help on how do I do this? Because there is so much to it.
There really is a lot to it. And it's something that I learned over many years, what works, what doesn't work. And, you know, as I mentioned, and you expanded on, you know, you very easily can just go out on your own. And if it's going to be just you, it's not as difficult to just keep track of your records in any fashion that works for you. You know, you should already be running your business like a business anyway and have some structure and organization. But once you add agents, the game changes. There's a lot more you have to be responsible for in the DRE's eyes and in the public's eyes. But there's just more tracking of things that needs to be done. And you need to really have systems. And especially if you are planning to deliver consistent service. If you've already, fair housing is one thing. You should absolutely be delivering consistent service. So that's one angle of it. But if you've developed a system of how you work with clients, your personal system, and you want your agents to do the same, then you need to have it documented and you need to have those systems in place. So, if you ever decide to go out on your own, these are some of the things you want to be thinking about now. And I'm just a big believer of document your systems now. Even if you hire an administrative helper, and you want them to help you with things, they're not mind readers. And so if you have things documented, then you can say, here, these are the steps, and make sure to paint the picture of what the finished product looks like. Because I remember a time when I was an office admin, and my manager said something so simple. He said, hey, every month, at the last office meeting of the month, I want to give all of the agents who had a transaction, either took a listing or opened escrow, I want to give the men a pen, a specific pen. He said, I'll order the pen. He said, but I want you to get the ladies flowers. And he said, I'm just thinking, get a vase and then go order a bunch of flowers, and you can just put the flowers in the vases. Like, okay, that's easy enough. Flowers is my life. Oh my gosh, we were on completely different pages of what this looked like. He had a specific vision of the vase, and I had a different vision of the vase. And we each agreed it was a single flower, a single rose. But he had, one color in his mind. I had a different color in my mind. And the vase was like, it was like a fight over what this vase should look like. And, he basically said, I got the wrong vase. And I said, a vase is a vase. Like, what is the big deal? It's a glass bottle to put the rose in. Why is this such a big deal? Well, because he had the picture in his mind, but he didn't share that picture with me. And so it was a good lesson early on in my career, like, be very specific if it matters that much.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the stuff that'll drive you crazy, because delegating is hard for many of us, especially when you have this, I see this is what I want. How do I convey this to this person to do this without expecting them to be a mind reader? Hoping they're on the same page, hoping that their vision kind of aligns with yours. And also, too, realize it's cruel and unusual punishment to whoever you hire if you do not have everything figured out beforehand, if you want them to take on a task. Now, if you want them to collaborate with you and figure out how to do this task, that's one thing. But if you're like, well, I want you to, enter my contacts in the CRM. How do you use CRM? What's the sign-on process? What's the information? How do we transfer the documents? How do we get this, from where it sits now to over here? What happens if there's a mistake? Do you have a backup? Blah, blah, blah. And a lot of people are just, well, you just figured out, especially in this land of lone wolves that we call real estate, because so many of us are just out doing our own thing. And this has been a big adjustment for me. Yeah, maybe I have an assistant or a buyer's agent or whatever over the years, but it's like, it was just me out doing me, not like, oh, we have, there's people waiting for instructions and figuring out how all of this is going to work. And if you can be clear in what it is you want somebody to do for you, then, you have it documented anyhow. Just give it to them. If they're looking at it going, I don't know what this means, say, well, let's figure out how we can make this clearer. And so you can fix your policy in the first place. So.
Right. There's a class that I wrote a couple of years ago for CAR. So it's in the CAR library of courses, and it's called The Human Side of Human Resources. And it's a 2.5 or 3 hour class where I walk you through how to figure out what you need in terms of help And it's not just if you have an office and you're going to hire staff. I mean, really, the principles apply if you're going to hire an administrative helper, even as an independent contractor. And I talk about having those systems documented and not expecting them to be a mind reader. And even if you think about it, if you have used more than one TC in your career, or you either hired one or more TCs, or you've had another TC on the other side of a transaction, they don't all work the same. Just because they have the same title doesn't mean they work the same. That the same is true for realtors. Just because we have the same title doesn't mean we all operate the same. And so, keeping that in mind, there isn't a transaction coordinator school where they all go to school, they all get the exact same information, and then they all perform the same. So just because you hire a TC, because they have that title, they've done the work, don't assume they're going to work the way you want them to work. You need to build that relationship and figure out, how does this person work? How do I need them to work? And so that's a conversation that you need to have up front to talk about, okay, for the most part, hey, you do you, but on these couple things, this is how I like it done. And make sure they have an understanding of that. So it doesn't matter if you are running an office and you're hiring an office administrator. Just because someone was an office administrator for another brokerage doesn't mean they're going to come in and do exactly what your old office administrator did, because you had to tell your office administrator what it is you needed. And I remember working with so many managers who would say, I don't understand, why isn't that OA, providing me those reports? I said, well, did you ask her for it? Well, no, she should just provide them. Well, why? We don't normally do those reports. Well, my old OA at my other company did it. Okay, well, that was at another company where you probably taught them to do that, or maybe that was the standard. So it's something that it's not that difficult, and I think we make it harder than it is. So we went from opening to a brokerage to hiring help. But if you're interested in that class, it's available on the CAR course catalog, and I really kind of walk you through how to figure out what you need, how to interview for them, how to interview them, how to do performance reviews, all of that.
And what's the name of the course?
It's called The Human Side of Human Resources, and it's in the CAR library. It's part of the Woman Up Executive certification as well, in case you want to go that route.
I like the way she says it, in case you want that route.
I mean, it's 11 classes.
That's a lot of classes.
I'm still working on mine. Getting through them a little at a time before they expire in December.
Well, and we got a couple of comments that I will read to you. In fact, you'll need to go back and see all of the birthday wishes, because everybody's wishing you a happy birthday. But we have a comment from Alec saying, good morning and happy birthday. There are a lot of companies out there to help get the broker's license. Which one do you recommend and way to go with it? Thanks.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that first you need to figure out your learning style. And so if you are someone who needs something in person, find a company that offers it in person. With COVID, it's been a little hit or miss on that. If you need to hear something, make sure that you find a company that has either like audio or video with it. If you just like to read and power through, then there are companies that offer that as well. So I've worked with a lot of different ones. I'm an affiliate partner for a lot of different ones, and I teach at a community college. So I don't usually recommend specific ones, but ask your friends, do a Google search and just look at the different options. But, I would say first and foremost, determine what is the method that's going to help you the most. If you hate reading only, then be sure that the class you're taking isn't only offered as read the book or read it online only. But for the broker's license, you need 5 classes. And so you can even look, CAR also offers them as well through online ed. They do have a broker package as well. And that one, I believe, is you read it, and I believe there's some video as well. It's been a really long time since I looked at that one.
Yeah, and depending when you got your salesperson's license, I mean, a lot has changed out there. I mean, I would ride my Brontosaurus to the real estate school in Laguna Hills and go be locked in a room and have to take my quizzes. And, and now everything's just so completely different. All of the learning methods, that are available out there are, there's so much that you can learn in different ways that we didn't have available to us back in the Stone Age. And, it just depends, where were you on the timeline of the internet, coming into play? And if you, were like me a long time ago, it's a huge plethora of things. You can find something that's going to fit your individual style. And the same with, the test prep. There's lots of different ways out there to learn. It used to be you had to go to an in-person crash course and sit there in the 8 hours and hear the instructor, which was great and still is great. But now there's so many different ways to get the information from accredited, honest to God real estate instructors. And, it's amazing. Everything that's open to you out there in the world. So, it is definitely whatever suits your style.
Exactly. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. And like I said, because I've worked with so many, I don't like to necessarily suggest certain ones because they're all different. They all have pros and cons. But when you were saying, it depends on when you started, you then mentioned the internet. But what I was thinking you were going to say is it depends when you got your license, because recently I had a salesperson who wants to pursue his broker license reach out to me and say, well, I need to take real estate practice. I'm like, well, that's one of the salesperson classes and not when I got my license.
That's right.
And
it wasn't when I got mine either.
Yeah, I forgot because it was one of the required courses when I got my license, and I've been licensed almost 20 years now. So it changed at some point. And so you want to double check and make sure that you are taking the courses you need. And if you're not sure, I can pop in the link on the DRE page with the education. That way everyone will be able to access it. But find the one that's going to work for you. And here's the thing, you can finish the classes. You have to wait a minimum of 18 days per class. Okay. So for your 5 classes, you're looking at about 90 days minimum to take the classes. But do you want to be that person that just races through it in 18 days? That makes me so crazy when I know salespeople have that ability to finish real estate principles, real estate practice, legal aspects in 18 days. Really? Like, I'm not a fan of that it's only an 18-day minimum. So.
Yeah. And it's a hard slog, I'll say for people that have experience, it's almost kind of like, how you learned everything when you got your license and then you put it aside because unless we're selling property somewhere not around here, when are you going to be dealing with riparian rights and littoral rights and all that crazy stuff? And then you come back and you're like, oh crap, I haven't used this in my case, 28 years. At least comprehension makes a little bit more sense now. But it's like, this doesn't make, we never use this. All these questions you want me to answer is stuff I refer people to an attorney for, and which is really crazy. You talk about the difference between theory and practical application. It's nuts. So, if you're thinking about doing it, you just kind of have to take your mind out of what you've actually been doing for your license period of time, go back, absorb all of these ridiculous facts that you're probably never going to need again, and stuff it in, hopefully pass the test the first time, and then go back to your life as you know it.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but it's true. It's just surprising that that's how it works. What we learn in the books, what we teach in the books is not what we use on a regular basis. And so don't have any fear or hesitation when you work on your broker's license. This business, but you have to put a different hat on and realize you are a student now having to study the business, and it's not the everyday practice. It is all the vocabulary, and it's really about understanding the concepts and applying it to the question that's asked. Not what you think they're asking, what they're actually asking, and one word in a question. can change what they're looking for in the answer. So it's tricky. I mean, it's no joke. The cram sessions will like stuff all that information in your brain, and maybe it clicks, they teach it in a way that it will click. But when you take the exam, I mean, you have to know exactly what it is they're asking and how to apply the material. And sometimes you have to read between the lines when stuff's not there. And other times don't read between the lines because now you're adding things that don't belong.
And I think also too is if you already have a license, you already did it once. It's going to be just more faster. So, I mean, that's really probably the best way to look at it. It's nothing that you haven't already done, just a little bit more and just a little bit faster.
Yes.
So, and let's see, what else do we have here? Let's see. Olivia has two things. I'm going to go backwards questions on Olivia. She asks, what is it you teach at what community college?
So I teach for Norco College, and I generally teach real estate principles, and then they'll sprinkle in practice or finance, and I'll be teaching a property management class for a different community college later this fall. And so I teach strictly online, and the difference between teaching it online for the junior college versus the correspondence schools where you do everything completely online and you work through the system is I actually do a lecture. And so they're able to hear the content. So they're reading along, they hear the content, and then I test them and I give them writing assignments. And most of the schools don't give them writing assignments. Correspondence schools definitely don't. And so I want them to apply the information to the classes. So practice is my favorite because, in a couple of weeks here, they'll be going online onto websites and looking at different properties and telling me what they see when they're looking at the property online. And the week before that, they do a mock buyer consultation with a friend or family member and just ask them, what is it you're looking for? And then that following week, they're online, because they don't have access to MLS. So they're online looking and see, okay, does this fit your needs? And, telling them about the property. So fun exercises.
That does sound like fun. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Makes it enjoyable for me too.
Well, and it's something that a correspondence school isn't going to give you, that those exercises and making you write about it and that kind of stuff. That's the one thing that, is more of an honest to God learning experience, I think.
Yeah.
So that's cool. And let's see, Olivia had another question saying, I want a system. Do you actually explain your system on Woman Up? Because she wasn't able to attend.
Oh, well, that's too bad you weren't able to attend. So the system for opening a brokerage, I'm assuming that's the question.
I'm not sure. It might just be a system in general. Olivia, if you're still there, elaborate for us.
There's a lot of systems. So if it's a general system, the answer might be no. I don't have all the systems documented. But as far as like opening a brokerage, I walk you through several steps. It's not everything that you need to do, but it's the main things that you need to do to get started. And so I did put a special checklist together for the Woman Up group. And if anyone would like it, just send me a note. I'll be happy to share it with you guys. And then, you mentioned my broker consulting company. What I do is I basically hold people's hand while they're going through this process. And if they're wanting to open their brokerage, then I walk them through all those steps and help them through it. If they've already opened their brokerage, then I look back and say, okay, let's see what you've done and make sure you're compliant, make sure you've done everything you need to do. And going forward, these are the things that you need to put in place. And so it's still kind of some hand holding, but in a gentle, loving, friendly, supportive way.
And you also do accountability. Are you doing accountability groups for?
I'm going to be starting up the accountability groups again. So if anyone is interested in getting their broker's license, and I know a lot of people I've been trying to get my broker's license for 3 years. Well, how's it working out? Not so good. Like I can't seem to make the time to work on my classes. And so with the accountability groups, we come together. It's usually 4 or 5 people max in a group, and we meet. I'm going to do every other week. I used to do them every week, and it was a lot for people. So I'm going to do them every other week, where you basically come together, and there's a lot to be said about group accountability. No one wants to be the person that has nothing to report that week. And so again, my approach is to be very supportive and empowering. It's not about shaming anyone for not having done the work. But at the same time, if you need a kick in the butt, hey, get on it. If you want to get this done by the end of the year or the end of the next year, you got to get this done. And so we do group sessions, and everyone reports in their progress. And it's beautiful to see the support that the people that are in the group give each other, because sometimes someone will have a hard week and it's just like, I don't know if I can do this. And the encouragement you get from the others in the group is beneficial too. So I did put together a little VIP list of things for the Woman Up group. But, even if you didn't attend Woman Up, I'm going to honor that those little special invitation items in our nerdy group, because these are my people too.
Look, it's Lori's birthday, and she's giving all of you a gift.
That's the best. I love to give. So
yeah, I think that's great.
I'll throw that in after we get done here. I'll put that in the group, and then if anyone's interested, just reach out. If nothing else, if we've never met and you've ever asked a question or just want to chat with me, I'd love to just get to know everybody. So
perfect. And Olivia said, great, and thank you so much. But she also said she's looking for a system for a new agent, long way to go before becoming a broker.
Okay. Yeah. System for a new agent. So even with that, there's a lot. Why don't you give me a call, Olivia, or schedule a meeting with me? We can kind of talk through what you're looking for, because, there's an onboarding process, but then there's a training process. And even within, the training process, there are different systems that you may need. So that might be the easiest way to kind of go about it, to just kind of chat about more specifically what you're looking for.
Yeah, because everybody kind of needs something different. That's the one thing, when people get into this business, they're all like, oh, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And, I was really super fortunate that when I started the business, that I was able to walk into a mentorship situation, that if I had not gotten that mentorship situation, which wasn't like, I'm looking for a mentor, well, I'm looking for a protege. I mean, it wasn't like that. It was, I got hired on, somebody saw my potential and said, we're going to do this, 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 and this, and you're going to be an agent, you're going to be my partner, and blah, 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 blah. And I was kind of like, what did they outlaw in France? Force feeding a goose for foie gras. I was being force fed real estate. It was just like, here, 10 listings, sell them in 30 days. And I'm sorry, you're going to make hardly any money off of doing this, but it's like, hey, I learned the business. I was so fortunate that I learned the business, and it set me up for success. And I can't honestly say, number one, I would have ever, gotten my real estate license, period, if I hadn't walked into that situation. I guess you could say I'm an accidental realtor. But it was just such a fantastic situation. And it's so sad to me that we don't have more honest to God mentorship programs in this business so people can learn, because how do you know what system works until you know what the work is to have a system? And maybe yourself, you can build a better mousetrap on how you can be more efficient and accountable and working smarter, not harder. And even as many years as I've been doing this, there's still, it's like, yeah, I could use a good system. So Olivia, you're not alone. I've been doing this for a long time, and with everything evolving and changing and the tools we have available, you don't really know what you can do, but learning the business first, finding somebody that will help you, have you come with them when you're showing property, have, take you with them to a listing appointment so you can actually see what goes on. Have, say, here, I'm doing a listing. I want you to watch me do this. Watch me put together the CMA. Watch me set up a search and stuff like that. That's where you really learn. That's really where you learn. And I really wish California had a mandatory apprenticeship requirement for salespeople, like they do appraisers, like the appraiser profession has to do, because we're just like, here, you got a license, go figure it out. Here, you're a broker, go figure it out.
Yeah. This, it's kind of a blessing and a curse, the fact that we are able to take the work and make it our own. It's a blessing because if you learn something and you don't like it, or you see a better way to do it, you can change it. But it's a curse because then there's no real consistency, even within your own company, let alone across the state. And so, the beauty of it is you already know how to sell real estate. And so that's where you start when you're building your system, is what do I do? So if you have, a little downtime right now, or, if you just have some time to start jotting down notes, just really start itemizing what it is you do for your listings, what it is you do for your buyers. You can fill in the gaps as you go, but if you build that basic outline of what you do, then suddenly you get this clarity. You're like, oh, and I could also do this. And now you're inserting into your existing system the cool things you've always wanted to do, but you just, in the moment, you're busy, you forget, you don't do it. But now that you're writing it out, then you can apply it on your next transaction and say, okay, now we're going to see how that works. And okay, that worked mostly. If I tweak it this way, it's going to work really well. And then I can do it consistently. So start there. That's the best place to start. And then that way, as you work through the work you are already doing, just document what it is you're doing. It's one of those things where in our industry, a lot of people will say, oh my God, I have a million things to do for this listing. Okay. And I look at it as I have a new listing. I've got work to do. And so I don't look at my to-do list as 30 things on a list to do. I sort of categorize things, and suddenly I've got a couple of categories. I've got 2 or 3 categories. I've got to work on my marketing. I've got to work on staging, and I've got to work on some paperwork. 3 things, not 100 things that all fall into those 3 categories. So that's kind of one of the differences between Lisa and I kind of categorize things, and then I just look at those categories, and it's like, okay, I've got three tasks to do. Where Lisa will look at it, she has 100 tasks that need to get done, because she's looking at the details, but I'm calm with it. And with her, sometimes you're like, oh, I've got 100 things to do, where I'd be like, I got 3 things to do.
Well, and I look at it more from like project management standpoint. I get out, believe it or not, I've got systems and I've got a spreadsheet, this is what we need to do. And, let's go assess the situation, and because we have to kind of realize what differentiates us from the next agent too, and my deal is helping my clients with project management and going through and making the assessment. What do we have to do? Who do we have to set up? How are we going to get them in here? Where are we going to get these bids? Who's actually going to show up and give a bid? How do we get this done? Where are they going to go during an open house? Blah, 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 blah. And it's just a different approach due to the way that, everybody works different. And, if Lori and I worked identically the same, number one, we'd be really bored with each other. And number two, there wouldn't be a variety to draw off of, for our agents to say, okay, well, this is the way, Lori does things. This is the way Lisa does things. I'm going to take a couple of things from Lisa's, going to take a whole bunch of stuff from Lori's, put it together. And now we have, a system that perhaps they can work off of. But the only system that works is the system you use, just like a CRM. You can go out and you can get one that's going to do who knows what for you. But if you don't ever put the names in it, then what good is it going to be? If you don't ever go back and check it out, what good is that going to do you? Same with, your work systems. How are you going to be accountable to yourself every day? And right there, that's a toughie. How are you doing things that are income producing activities? And, keeping track of that yourself. There was one program my God, it was a sheet of paper with, you get out a pencil and you write. That's a really foreign concept to many nowadays.
Oh, I remember these.
Yeah, I got my pencil sharpener, and you know what? When I'm going to do my brainstorming, I get out a brand new pencil and I sharpen it all up, and I get out my notepad, and you just keep track of what you're doing. What do I have to do? Check it off when you've done it. I mean, nothing gives me more pleasure than my high-tech planner. I want everybody to see my high-tech planner. I have days of high-tech planning in here. It's called, I write down the date at the top of the page in the morning, what I have to do, when I have to do it, and I cross them off. Oh my God, does it feel good to cross them off? In fact, we're gonna cross this off because we're doing Monday morning coffee and compliance. But it can be as basic as that. People overthink a lot of things. I basically operate off of spreadsheets and a notebook. And that's how I function. My phone calendar is super important, but I also keep a calendar here so I can make notes and keep track and have something to, easily reference, just jotting something down instead of always putting something in your calendar. Sometimes it's not real convenient. So, whatever system works for you. Doesn't have to be rocket science. You just have to be consistent with it.
Totally agree. I mean, sometimes we get caught up on having the latest app that's going to do everything. And, it's garbage in, garbage out. If I've got the coolest app and I don't put anything in it, it's going to do nothing for me. And I shared on the Women Up session that, I think it was in the Q&A session, where you have to leverage other people. You have to pay people to do what they're good at. And so over about a 10-year period, I collected 600 business cards. And one day I was going to enter them into a CRM. One day, and it was 10 years later. And I finally said, this is never going to happen. I don't want to do it. I will never do it. And so I paid somebody to do it. And you know what? Now I've got it done. So sometimes we just have to realize we don't need to do everything. But if it needs to get done, sometimes just pay somebody to do it. Pay for some administrative help, someone who loves to do data entry. They are going to knock it out, save you a ton of time, make you more productive. So even low-tech systems work. Don't be ashamed. I'm not ashamed. I use some low-tech things some days. You saw my desk, you'd be like, okay, she's not lying about that.
You want to know something? Your comment made me think. One thing that I really liked about the pandemic was I didn't collect a gazillion business cards. You would have, everything was like online. So it's like, oh, you're contacting my email. Boy, does that save you a step.
For sure.
And it saves space because, I did the same thing with my business cards because I had a big old, business card box, the ones that was like, 1.5 feet, 2 feet long or whatever. And it was full. And I'm like, oh, assistant. And now they're all in an Excel spreadsheet, ready to go into a new CRM. But at least it's done. I didn't have any to contribute for a year and a half, which is really kind of nice. But yeah, sometimes it takes money to make money. And sometimes that money that you're spending isn't very much, and it's going to come back to you tenfold. And Olivia's going throwback. She's got a Franklin planner. Oh my heavens. Bless your heart. Gosh.
The planners being advertised on Facebook last night for some reason. So, it's that time of year where we start wanting to get more organized. I saw your spiral notebook. I've got a couple different systems I use, and then I stop using. They work while I use them, but I think I might go to just a spiral notebook for next year.
I have, well, you can't see it because I put them away. I think I have my spares. These ones have stuff in them. Because I even like write the date on, this one started March 14th, 2021 to June 25th, 2021. So if anybody ever said, well, where were you? Or, what did you do? Well, let's see, on May 14th, I was at the NAR Board of Directors meeting. I also had to go do a carpet bid. And then I went to a Dodger game. So I can tell you everything I did that day. And I have them all. These are the most recent ones that I haven't archived yet, but I have banker's boxes full of my notebooks.
Wow.
So I can tell you anything that happened on that day. Very rarely do I miss a day. I want to say I missed one on Woman Up. I think. I don't know. I missed one. Maybe it was Saturday. Because I just knew I had, Saturday I had it. Friday. You guys all get to sit here and watch me figure out what day it was. Wednesday. Yep. Woman Up Wednesday. And that day I was just so enthralled and with what was going on. It was like, I don't need to do this right now. But it's just a good way of keeping on track though. And you can carry over the things, or you can go back and see, what did I miss? What did I not do that I kind of forgot that you didn't carry over a day? So, it's a plan. Not much of a plan, but it's a plan. It works.
Cool. I'm going to give that a try. I was printing out my calendar each day, and sometimes I'd print out the following day. And if I knew I wasn't going to get to something on a certain day, I'd plug it into a future date on my calendar. That worked.
Yeah. There's all kinds of things that you can do. And if you put onto your list, that you know what your income producing activities are, then put them on the list. And, everybody has their own method. You've got the time blocking method. You've got the work in your business, work on your business, half a day for one, half a day for the other. Life isn't that tidy in real estate. You can have the best laid plan. Today, I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And then the phone rings. And everything that you planned just went out the door because now you have a new listing. And giving yourself grace on, okay, I wasn't able to do my 3-hour time block of whatever it was that I was going to do. You just, you got to roll with it and don't beat yourself up. I know some people are so super rigid in their ways, they wake up at 5 a.m. I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do that. And by 7 o'clock, I'm going to, whatever it is. And, it's like, give yourself grace in this business. Anybody that predicts what the hell they're doing from sun up to sundown in the real estate business, I don't know. I don't, either something's going to suffer, probably your sanity, but just keeping it real, kids, keeping it real.
Yeah. I do that once in a while. If I really have a lot of time sensitive things to do, then it's like, all right, I got 2 hours to work on this. And then at that's from 9 to 11, and at 11, I've got to start this. But I couldn't do that every day. There's no way. It just wouldn't work.
Yeah. Life gets in the way. Life gets in the way of life. Life gets in the way of work. Work gets in the way of life. And we're all of us that chose this business realize that, what is it? You're never going to find a job with more freedom. You're going to never find a job where you're more tied down. And that kind of goes with our daily schedules and having the systems in place to make sure that you are, doing what you need to do and getting everything done that needs to be done, and one thing that I always look at is what on my to-do list affects somebody else. And if it affects somebody else, that pops it up to the top of the list. If it just affects me, well, then, as long as I'm not screwing other people up, I just want to be sure that I can get that done. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes I still screw other people up. It's just the way it goes. But, to consciously go into it with what needs to be done so somebody else is not affected by my actions. Those always get popped to the top.
It's a good way to look at it, for sure.
Yeah. Well, what other words of wisdom do you have for us, Lori? Professor Lori. We should be calling you Professor Lori.
I'm an associate professor, but thanks.
Okay, associate professor. We'll call it APL.
Okay, I like those initials. What other words of wisdom? So there was a conversation at the most recent CAR town hall that you and I didn't even get a chance to discuss yet, but it's something that we should be thinking about more. So when you hire a handyman, right now the limit is $500 that you can pay a handyman for handyman services before they need to have a license. But the conversation was about disclosing to your clients that the handyman is not licensed and may not have insurance. What are your obligations, especially if you're recommending that handyman to your seller to repair stuff at the house? So it was advised that you should disclose if your handyman is not licensed and not insured, that you're not necessarily vetting them out. You're not looking at financial statements or anything to see how they conduct their business. But what I found really interesting was they also said that if a handyman does work on a property and they're not licensed, claims may not be covered under insurance. So if they do some type of work on an item around the house that causes damage, or that tries to prevent the need for a future homeowner's claim or maybe a home warranty claim, the insurance company might not cover that claim because the handyman was not essentially following the law. If they did work that was over the $500, or if they did work that would require the license, or maybe they didn't have insurance, that could be a problem. So this is something, give it some thought when you're making those referrals to especially your sellers. Let them know if they don't have insurance or a contractor's license, and it may mean you want to have a couple other recommendations ready to go in case the work is more. I know there's a lot of, there's some ways around, making it look like they're doing things compliantly by having multiple invoices, but we all know what is trying to be accomplished there. So thought I'd throw that out there because it caught my attention for sure.
You know what might be good is that we devote a whole Monday Morning Coffee and Compliance to home inspections and handyman work, because you also have similar deals with home inspectors that may not have E&O insurance. What are the questions you need to be asking your home inspector? I had a great inspector that I used for years. And then I asked him one day, hey, do you have E&O insurance? And he's like, no, I don't. And I'm like, well, I guess this is the last time I'm going to use you. And it broke my heart, but I couldn't force him to do it. And he chose to continue not to. And so I had to find somebody that did. And also, just because they do doesn't necessarily mean that they're really super good either, because I had one guy come in and oh wow, did he miss something huge. And thank God for him, he had E&O insurance. And the client came to me saying, well, you knew about this. And I'm like, no, you know what? If you remember correctly, I'm the only one who didn't climb the ladder and looked into the attic. You climbed up the ladder and looked in the attic, Miss Client, and you had the inspector telling you what he saw, and he missed something huge, and I'm the only one who didn't have knowledge of it. So guess what? Leave me alone.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, so it's, we need to really be careful with the people that we're recommending. There's also, they didn't mention it at that session, but I was listening to it somewhere else. I can't remember where if you're hiring movers that don't have insurance, that can be a really big problem as well. So, when we're making these referrals of people, on one hand, we don't want to vet them out because then we can say we didn't vet them out. But if we do know that they don't have insurance, we need to be letting our clients know. Even if the client is the one paying for it, and you could say, well, I didn't pay for it. It wasn't. Yeah, but if you made that connection, that can pull you into it. So just be really thoughtful on those referrals that you're giving. Try to find people that are compliant, insured, and of course do a great job.
Yeah, and I always give a disclaimer whenever I refer a mover saying, well, the last couple of times that they were used, everybody was quite happy with them. However, I can't guarantee results, and a good mover can go bad really quick. And, just because I'm giving you their name, I am not guaranteeing, that it's going to be, perfect service. I had one time, oh my gosh, I had gotten a discount coupon from a mover that I thought they had a, good reputation. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know. This was years ago too. And I gave it to my client saying, hey, you know what? I got this coupon for, $250 or whatever off, your move. And she had him come out, and she lived in a carriage unit, and they dropped her refrigerator down the staircase from the second floor down to the first.
Wow.
Boom, boom, boom. And you know what a refrigerator is going to do when it's tumbling down those stairs? It's going to take out everything in its path.
Yeah.
And who did she call when this happened? And I'm like, I'm sorry. And it took some wrangling, because the mover was not very nice about their person dropping a refrigerator down the stairs. So I felt bad, because now not only did she have the damage to her home that she had to repair, that she was turning over the home to the new owners. And now she needs a new refrigerator, but they gave her trouble on, the repair of it, the filing the claim of it. And I was never more mortified in my life that I handed her this discount coupon for somebody that trashed her house, trashed her refrigerator, and caused her massive headaches. So sometimes you're better off, especially with movers, just saying, you know what, I don't have anybody right now that I can refer to you wholeheartedly. But, may I suggest picking up, what used to be the yellow pages, going on the internet and seeing who's out there, because, especially movers, they can cause a lot of trouble. And, you don't want to be guilty by association.
Yeah, and that's the tricky part, because, we want to be so helpful. We want to be able to make things easy for our clients, but we are potentially putting ourselves at risk by making those recommendations. As an industry standard has always been, give 3 referrals for each service that you're asked. And sometimes it's hard to have 3 referrals. So that's all I got.
Well, and Pam said it would be a good topic, so maybe we can go into this a little bit deeper. Home inspectors, handymen, movers, vendors that we recommend. We'll go into depth in this a little bit more, because I think it's really a worthy topic, and knowing what our liability is for these referrals, and knowing who's got what and how to ask. We'll make a note of that. But since it's Lori's birthday tomorrow, I'd sing, but I don't want to ruin people's eardrums, so I'm not going to do that. But it's 9:58, so maybe we'll wind up 2 minutes early to celebrate.
Sounds good.
Wonderful. Well, everybody be sure to, wish Lori a happy birthday. Do it tomorrow when it's an actual birthday. Mark it on your calendar, everybody. September 7th. Have it as a reoccurring event every year, so it's his birthday on September 7th. And happy birthday to my best friend and the best business partner in the world.
Feel the love.
Okay, well, now it's 1 minute till 10, so we'll go ahead and wrap this bad boy up. But thank you all for spending your Labor Day morning here. We know it was a little light, but we appreciate everybody that came to join us. And we will see you next week. And maybe we'll do that, unless something earth-shaking comes up between now and next Monday. Maybe we'll do the handyman, mover, inspector, vendor workshop next weekend. Or next week, next Monday. What am I saying? I need more coffee.
Pull it together in 1 week. We'll try.
We'll try. Okay, guys, take care. Have a wonderful holiday weekend. We'll see you next week. Go sell a house.